Everybody, welcome back. Got another MCU video for you. Loki, episode 1. We're going to talk about a little bit with our buddies Eddie and Mike. It's about that time to really break forth the rhythm and lots of rhyme. We've been delayed a little bit. We're all over the country doing all kinds of busy stuff, so we finally got together, talk about it. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. If you're new to the channel, check out the Discord link in the description below. I got some content we can follow along with. You want to subscribe because we're doing some giveaways once we get that 10,000 subscriber mark. So yeah, it's free. It's easy. Both of them you can follow along and maybe win something. All you got to do is comment below to be enrolled, and we'll pull comments from a bunch of random videos. All right? Let's go see what we're going to be talking about here for Loki.
Bring me WolverThor!
What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey. How you dudes doing?
Hey.
Well.
Yeah, life's good. Life's good. I miss you guys.
Miss you too, bud.
Yeah.
Miss you.
Yeah, you guys are staying out of trouble, and you know, I was explaining in the intro a little bit that you know, I know we're running all over the globe. Well, maybe not the globe, but the country, I guess. You know, you guys are super popular, doing work in New York, doing, you know, Eddie, I don't even know where you're running all over the place, doing all kinds of gigs. So
I was in Wisconsin and Vegas. It's fine. Mike's in New York. He's over there chilling.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, it's still, you know, running around, right? That counts for something.
But Eddie, you've been living that set life. That's
It's been great, man.
Yeah, it's
can't wait till shows come out and I can show you guys.
I know. It's like, what? I know that guy. So,
he's a cop.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so ironic.
I like it. All right, so Loki. I mean, the first thing, you know, obviously the show starts with, you know, what was it? An Endgame. Well, I guess technically Avengers 1, Endgame, whatever you want to call it, where he's got the Tesseract and, you know, zaps over, and we basically get him going to the, you know, TVA. One of the things, you know, Eddie, I think you said this before we started, but, you know, you were taken back for a second because you're like, wait, why is he being so much of kind of an a-hole? And it's like, oh, wait. This is Avengers 1 Loki. He's had technically we're seeing a Loki that's had no character development outside of that. So that's something that we gotta kind of remind ourselves and anybody watching who might forget that. What was your kind of, both you guys, you know, Mike, we'll start with you. What was your initial impressions of kind of the first start of the show with seeing what's happening and, you know, him going to the TVA, and what your thoughts were of just seeing the TVA?
Yeah, I mean, first thoughts, you're getting kind of the original, I'm gonna say, a-hole Loki.
Right.
You know, because right off the bat, like, he landed in like the Mojave Desert or wherever he landed, and he like wants to take over the people he like interacted with, like, before they showed up. You know, he was just ridiculous. You know. But in regards to, you know, kind of fast forward the TVA getting him, I think that world, you know, we'll deep dive kind of more into it, but it was very cool. It was basically like a crappy DMV, and you know, it was him, you know, just very confused, like we all were, and just like going through the motions, and you know, it was very entertaining. His sarcasm, everything played off very well with him kind of being, you know, his ass self, and you know, the TVA just being like, we're at the DMV, like, you're not gonna win this fight, you know, just stuff like that. So yeah, no, I thought it was very entertaining right off the bat. You know, you don't get many answers, but I think that's the point. Yeah,
I mean, I think ultimately we know Mephisto's behind it all, right? That's really what,
of course,
at the crux of everything. So
Eddie, it always is.
Yeah, what about you, Eddie?
No, I'm same feelings with Mike. I think it takes place in Endgame, just because if you like, also, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but like if you watch when Tony was putting away the Tesseract, you can see Ant-Man like running up his arm again. It's kind of cool.
Oh no, they took that entire scene from Endgame, and put it in the intro for sure.
Super dope. Like, I was like, that's great. Like, I love that. And then he gets the cube, transports, and he lands. Which, when he landed in the sand, was very reminiscent of like Iron Man 1 when he escapes. That was kind of cool. That was a cool little nod. But like Mike said, yeah, he comes in very 2012 Loki, just like, I'm trying to take over and be God King and all these things. People are like, who are you? Like, what's going on? And then TVA shows up, and then when she hits him, and he's just going in slow motion at 1/16 speed. I was like, that's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
Yeah.
And then I want to know what the reset charge does, because like you saw it drop. It started off orange and then turned purple, which, given the last thing we saw, which was WandaVision, purple usually dictates like villain stuff. Like with Agatha,
Yeah, whatever her magic
particular
is.
magic was always purple.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
And
about that. Like,
Dormammu's
and
magic.
Dormammu, yeah. So like he saw it when they dropped it, but then you saw nothing after the fact. Like it's been seen like 2 or 3 times throughout the episode, but you don't ever see what happened, like how it works.
Yeah.
He gets taken in. It's got a very 70s vibe, the TVA, orange, which is like off-putting. Nowadays, it just feels out of place.
Yeah.
You see a scroll when he walks into the room, which I thought was kind of cool. Which I guess is leading to Secret Wars, I'm assuming. I don't know. And then the whole like how the collar works with the little clicker, which by the way, terrible choice for a leash, for it just to be on, like just to be like a little like tab. It's better on like your wrist, like something attached to you. It's just me.
Mike
But I
clearly
mean, it
hates
helps
it too.
motivate the. Wait, say it again.
Mike clearly hates it too. He's just shaking his head.
I mean, how that can get lost in 3. I mean, we'll go into it, but it needs to be like a wristwatch or something along those lines.
But I mean, again, it helps motivate the story. And so he's there, gives the guy the Tesseract. He has no idea what it is, which I thought was hilarious. And then they bring him through like the processes. He lands in a room where they have to they shear off his clothes, which that robot was hella creepy with the face, like with the slow grin, the twitch in the left eye, which was funny. And they drops him into a room. He goes, "Please verify this is everything you've ever said." Which, by the way, Loki's been alive for thousands of years. It's a very small stack of words. Personally, I feel like it was a very short stack.
Honestly, that's got to be a front and back situation.
Yeah, and the whole thing, like there's no
like,
spacing in between.
Like Comic Sans font 2 or something.
He signs that, falls into another one, and then he has like a weird moment of like going through that little like aura thing where he's like, "What if I'm not a robot? What if I am?" I thought that was really funny. And then he gets into the room where he has to take a ticket and not be the guy who gets like zapped away. Was it retcon? Is that what it was? I think that's what happened. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I know that it was like the kid worked for like Goldman Sachs.
His dad, I think his dad was on the board or something. He acted like he was like
also,
hot.
I don't know like what that guy does to mess up a timeline to get thrown
dude.
in there, but he did something.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. You know, somebody was like, "I wonder if that's the missing person that what's his name from WandaVision was looking for." I can't remember. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know about all that, but it was funny when I saw it. I was just like, no. But you know, when you guys were talking about him kind of like trying to be king or over, like it is really hilarious how he jumped on that like
the rock
slope, like you know, maybe 2 feet above the ground to like 4 like Mongolian desert farmer types. I'm just like, what are you doing?
You reel it in.
Yeah.
Like, reel it in.
I'm like, good lord, man. Like, and they were just like, who are you? What are you doing? Which, by the way, I was like, whatever. I'm like,
so weird.
And by the way, did you guys? I don't know if this was just in a promo, but when they had the bug kind of going through like the water, the bubble there in that scene in the desert, it was very reminiscent of, or made me think of when, Loki said it was in Avengers something about. An
ant has no core with a boot.
That's exactly what right. And then the TVA shows up, and it's like, okay, well the TVA is now the boot, Loki. So, and that's and we won't necessarily get into this too much today, but that's kind of like how the Marvel universe, not cinematic universe, but Marvel universe works. Is all of a sudden you just like keep one upping until you get these gigantic like celestial type figures that are just like. Oh, okay. So nothing can do anything against that, pretty much. Like, all right. So,
but, I mean, if you think about it, even in life, it's like that. I mean, the idea that there's always something bigger. I mean, even like the food chains like that. Like a shark is okay, but then something's bigger than the shark, and like there's stuff in the sea we haven't seen before. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have no idea. Yeah,
very true.
It's the Jurassic Park, the little film where it shows everything eating everything.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So, what do you guys think of Miss Minutes? How do you like her? You dislike her? I mean, what do you think?
I'm gonna hop in here real quick. The voice of her, Tara Strong, is the voice of Tommy Pickles from the Rugrats years ago. Like the fact that she's still working, awesome. Like I love that, dude. I love that. she's great. Creepy,
Yeah.
but great. I love how, I don't know, it just something about it just feels intimidating for being so like, hi, welcome to the TVA, and you're like, I don't like, you're too happy. Like that's not good. You know what I mean? I love how she explains how it all kind of works though, and like I want to, I'll let you start that off because I'm gathering questions.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, go Mike.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. It's one of those things like this whole for the show itself. It gives off like what the 80s did with what they think like the future is, but it like wasn't the future. But it, like it's kind of like almost like nods to other sci-fi stuff. So it was like a creepy like original Mac computer cartoon, just like hey, how are you? But I don't think Miss Minutes is going to be like an integral part in this, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It was more. It seems like it's going to be like more of a meme type thing than anything else.
Right.
That we get a lot of looking at the TVA. It's just I want to talk about that for a second. Just the view when Owen Wilson Morbius. Is they're walking through there and they kind of look out to see what that is. I found that I don't know, I just kind of like the scene. I don't know exactly what it is. It almost seems like it could be some sort of bubble outside of space and time, which, Morbius says, he makes that comment about, time works a little differently here. So I'm certain it's outside of time, but what did you guys think about just the pure, I don't know what the right word of it, I don't want to say animation, but just like how that looked.
Honestly, for me, I think Marvel does an awesome job at like creating these different worlds, whether it's like in galaxies or whatever. Because for instance, like in the TVA, again, I kind of throw back to like where it seems like it's like a crappy DMV in the 1980s, but then you look out into this world of what looks like a city of technological advance, and you're kind of just like, what is this world? It may be like its own entity, but it still looks awesome. Like I want like Loki to like run around in that world. It reminded me very much of Thor Ragnarok when he's in
Sakaar.
Like it's got its own like just cool city vibe. That was awesome.
All right.
Hey.
I want to take a step back before we go any further. And just not to get it confused. His name is Agent Mobius. Like when Tony Stark was making the time travel watches, it was like the Mobius strip. So I did no confusion with like Morbius, who is going to be the vampire of the MCU.
I'm sorry. Did I say Morbius? Yeah. Thank you for
just to make sure there's no Cleo.
There's no vampires that we know of at this point.
I want to take a step back to when we actually first get introduced to Mobius in the church. 3 or 4 agents get killed in that moment. Yeah. And again, the little reset charge was taken, and he meets some child who just happens to meet the variant, as they call them. And then we see a little devil on the stained glass, who I think we all think is Mephisto. Is that what we're on the same page for?
Yeah. I mean, they were trolling us.
Yeah.
They had
to be.
Like when Mobius goes, "Who is here?" and the little kid points to the devil. It's like, come on, man.
Come on, buddy.
I wonder when that was shot, though. Do you think that was shot that much after everybody was kind of like... I bet the timing of that was shot. I think they might have just stumbled upon that because Loki has horns. You know what I mean? And
Probably.
Spoiler alert, by the way, anybody who's watching this, I assume you wouldn't be watching it unless you've seen episode 1. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think. As much as I was thinking, it was like, all right, who you get? Is this? No, you wouldn't. I think that they might have just accidentally just had that happen. But anyway, sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No, you're good. So then, he meets the kid. He gets like a pack of gum or some kind of like candy from the kid. We have no idea what that is.
So they were in like the year. I'm gonna make up a year, like 1697, and they had like a 1970s pack of gum, a gum from a different generation, and that gum wasn't invented. So I think the whole concept of it was whoever this bad person is messing up different timelines by inputting futuristic things in the past.
Like the smallest things too, like this, like small little tweaks. Right. And then someone shows up, gives Mobius like Loki's file, and he's looking at it. And I love how in the file, I want to talk about this real quick, how his gender is marked as fluid. I'm just. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Because I love how it's fluid. There's no set gender. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, the only thing I can think of is he's not a man. He's like a whatever planet he's from. I don't think there's like a gender.
Right, because technically he's part of.
He's a I'm going to say Bifrost. That's not the correct term, but
Frost
it's like
giant.
a frost giant.
Frost giant.
He's a frost giant. So I don't think there's like a.
There were a lot of dude-looking frost giants in all the movie. You didn't really ever see a what I
always
call
see
a
a female.
Yeah.
So maybe
But at the same time, there is a lady Loki. So
Right.
you're also thinking about like, well, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody's speculating right now, and we'll talk about this a little bit when we kind of go over what we think the bad folks are, but that's what they're kind of thinking is like, could Lady Loki be involved in this somehow? And I don't know if it's as simple as what we said. Well, maybe frost giants don't have a sex, or if it's an Easter egg for it's Lady Loki. Clearly it could be either, but I definitely think that it's more than likely a Lady Loki situation. As if someone forced me to bet, that's what I think.
No, for sure. And then so then Loki gets taken to the judge. I can't remember her name right now.
I have that written down. What is it?
Ravana Renslayer.
Yes.
That's what it was. And he's curious as to how, like, what he did, how it's wrong relating to the timeline, but what the Avengers did was okay. Can we dive into this now, or should we wait a little bit?
Yeah, so, just before that, one thing only. I just want to mention the Nightmare reference, that Mobius and, when they were looking outside, that whole thing. It might be nothing, but there's clearly some sort of, like, that's a different department. I'd gladly burn that down.
But I think that's after the judge part.
Yes.
It might be.
Because
Might be. Okay.
Mobius didn't introduce himself to Loki until after the judge.
That's true. You're right. Okay, so jumping to the sacred timeline concept, and this is definitely something that seems very interesting. And people are debating this a lot. Is it a plot hole? Is it are they got it wrong? Is it work right? So the concept of what the Avengers did was okay as far as returning the Infinity Stones, versus whatever Loki did is not okay. So I don't know which one of you guys wants to go first, but I'd love to hear what you both think, and I'll definitely share my thoughts. Not sure they'll make any sense, but
I mean, we can like really get deep dive into it. I'm going to just keep it simple as like it's just part of like, don't read too much into any timeline. Like my mindset too is I feel like there's going to be a concept where they made it an adamant point where these timekeepers like control the universe.
Right.
So my mindset as of right now, and again, this is just the first episode, is like everything that's happening, the timekeepers want to happen. Like that's my understanding of it. So I don't have like there's an offshoot or anything like that. Like I think Loki being in this situation is very much the plan of the timekeepers. Whether, again, we can deep dive into if timekeepers are bad or good. I don't know that yet. But I feel like everything kind of happens by their control. I mean, they said it in the very beginning. Like, Miss Minutes was like, they do everything to make sure everything happens as planned.
Yeah.
You doing this happened as planned.
Right.
So, unless we get more answers and things happen more and more, we'll cross that bridge. But
yeah. What do you think, Eddie?
But I think doing what he did wasn't part of the plan, because that's why he's in court, right? Because of what he did, he messed the timeline up, right? Okay, so real quick, take a step back. All right, so they explained that there were multiverses, and then the timekeepers came in and took all of them and made it into one giant timeline. Which, who's to say that they were okay doing that? Like, that's a ballsy move. This episode and just the explanation of how things work reminds me of a movie called The Adjustment Bureau. It's with Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and Anthony
I remember that. Yeah.
And like the movie revolves around Matt Damon, who plays like a politician who loses a election. He meets Emily Blunt in the bathroom, and she becomes like his love interest, and he never sees her again after a moment that she provides for him to help him kind of like get back on the campaign trail, right? Runs into her again like years later on a bus, and spends the whole movie trying to be with her. But the timekeepers of this movie, of the Adjustment Bureau, are like people that have a book that show how his life is supposed to be. And she was a moment in time, but not the forever story. And so like that, it kind of feels like this episode of Loki, or just the whole overall part of the series, I guess, is that like what you're doing is not what we intended, and that you're making this a problem for us. And so like we need you to get back on this path so that what you end up being is what you're supposed to be, which is dead at the end of Infinity or at the beginning of Infinity War. Because by him seeing his whole story, like that. What's funny was when he is in that room and Mobius is showing his life, and then he goes back and sees it later. He has that moment at the end of the episode that he had through 9 movies, right? I guess through 4 or 5 movies after that. So it's funny that he had that giant arc in like 20 minutes in this show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just find the whole like timeline thing confusing, because what the Avengers did was supposed to happen, but Loki doing what he did wasn't supposed to happen. But you're like, but it didn't though, and so why?
I mean, at this point, it's just like we can't question timelines. Like it's it does. I don't think it's a like if people start questioning time and space and everything in reality, it's like this is fake.
Right.
What are we doing?
Right.
Well,
because then people are talking about how when Cap goes back and puts and Reese, because like the whole idea is that like the reason why like the Avengers doing was okay was because they returned the stones back where they were supposed to be, which is what the Ancient One explained in Endgame, right? So everything is hunky dory, as they say. But when Cap goes back to be with Peggy, that would be a mistake. But what he did was right, because he didn't interfere after he went back. So now there's 2 Caps living in the world. Well, one's frozen and one's with Peggy. And as long as he stays hidden, nothing changes at all. As long as he stays like with Peggy and off to the side and doesn't really leave quarantine, so he is quote unquote. But like, and then he shows at the end of Endgame old, and you're like, oh well, I guess he didn't interfere at all, which means he messed up on a lot of events. Just let stuff happen, which he had to do. I mean, that's, I don't know. It's such a weird.
The part that I struggle with it is, so like in Endgame, Loki taking the Tesseract caused the Avengers to do what? Go back and get more stones, right? So
they had to get the Tesseract from a different year.
Right. So they had to do that. And like in that timeline, Loki never really is back because he's already dead, right? But he has to go back at some point to be eventually executed by Thanos. So, which is technically the Loki what we're looking at. So that's the part that kind of starts blowing my mind a little bit. It's like, so is this Loki now going to go through all these events with the TVA and have to be put back to where he was originally, took the Tesseract, but then he doesn't take it, but then they don't go back to do all those things, but he knows what's going to happen and he goes forward.
There's too much.
That's where Mike's like,
we can do this for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
An hour.
And that's where I think where it's fun and I get it. It's like what Mike says. It's just like, you know what? Accept that right there. There's a timeline that's
Austin Powers like, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Like we could do this.
Yeah, so I get your point. And that's where I was kind of like, plot hole, I guess, maybe. But, you know, and like you said, you could keep going, but then this and maybe that, but that caused it. And it's just like, you know what? I just want to enjoy the movie.
And see how they figure it out.
Well, and not just that. And even if I don't love how they don't figure it out, it's like, was I entertained? Did I enjoy this?
Yes, I was.
And I was. 100%. So I'm fine. Like, I'm
100%.
not. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I got to. I mean, I don't know. I'll probably flip-flop back and forth of being frustrated by it, but also just letting myself enjoy it.
Call me at the end of the season and see what the time is.
Yeah. Well, but, you know, they've already talked about season 2, so...
Is there a season 2, really? Will there be?
I think I read or whatever that. I think that they did say that they're probably going to do a season 2, but I don't hold me to that. I do think that's a possibility. So, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about the Sacred Timeline? I mean, Peggy Carter, I kind of want to throw that in there at the same time.
Miss Minutes explains how whenever someone veers off the path, it creates a Nexus event, which Nexus wasn't introduced, but it was mentioned in WandaVision in one of her in one of those commercials when she's at the farm thing. Yeah. So that was kind of cool. That was a nice little tie-in because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that's kind of a slight tie-in, which I'm hoping who the writer for this forgot his name already.
Michael Waldron.
Michael, thank you. Was interviewed asking if there was any sort of anything he wrote that might tie into the movie. He's like, you have to watch and find out. And we're like, oh, okay, so 5 more episodes, all right.
But he also did say in an interview that out of all the shows they've done so far, Loki is the biggest connection to Doctor Strange out of all of them.
Yeah. I think it's gonna have a lot of tie-ins. Like the fact that
I
he's
mean, it's dealing with different timelines. It's the multiverse. Like,
Yeah.
they're
Right.
I mean, it shows in, you know, in the show where it's, you know, it shows all these different things talking about the multiverse. They talk about how they, you know, avoided that they had all these multiverses and these different timelines and they had to combine. I'm like, oh, this is clearly tied together. And, you know, something maybe happens in this that causes the multiverse to get more jacked up, and maybe Wanda does something, and maybe somebody else does something, and maybe Quantum Mania does something, you know, and it's just maybe just keeps kind of spiraling. And you know, one of the things I did find interesting is there's clearly a zone of acceptable like timeline, like jumping out of, not that they're against it, but there was one point in the episode where they were saying it's approaching like some bad zone. I don't know what it was, but
they called it like, I'm gonna say like
Threshold.
Yeah, it's basically like there's so many variants happening in different timelines that it's bad for the timeline.
Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yes.
Which like the little block that they use to navigate that or to like keep that, it's a unit of 5. Like it goes from like 5 to 0. So if it keeps going up, when it hits 0, that's like the breaking point, which everything just goes bananas. Yeah, that's interesting. Good call.
Okay. So, do we touch on the Peggy Carter showing up there, or potentially or fake, or the speculation?
It was a girl with her haircut.
Okay, so that's Mike's.
It's a unique look.
Mike just thinks it's a random NPC for all you gamers out there. Eddie, are you
It's
in
a unique look.
Yeah, you just think it's whatever, right? Or do you think? Okay.
That was
There's no way.
extra in the acting world, as they say.
Yeah, there
I
you
would
go.
need so much evidence for that to be her. It would like we discussed, Cap going back. Maybe that's the whole deal. Maybe that's why she is there. If it was her, that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It'd be crazy if they start tying some of that stuff where it was like, yeah, actually, he wasn't supposed to do that. You know, it's kind of like, all right. But anyway, we
Would charm
don't
his
want to
way out of that court, son.
Yeah,
so fast.
Like I think, like Mike said, we're gonna be here for hours if we get too deep into studying timeline stuff. So jump into the next thing. So the Infinity Stones are now basically like powerless. They mean nothing. They're paperweights. I mean, and Loki even said
we're kind of way fast forwarding. I think that's like Loki, not to like go through every step by step, but Loki had his interview, saw his life, escaped, stole the thing, went through that whole process, and was trying to get out of there, and then got that guy's attention who he originally saw.
Yeah.
But in regards to that, I feel like that's just like almost like I feel like the TVA is kind of like the cops where they have evidence. Like I feel like that's just timeline evidence that doesn't do anything.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's like I get what you're saying, but there's still some interesting part. And like even Loki mentions it where, it's like the most powerful entity in the universe because you can see he recognizes like something is weird here. Like, why is this not, working like normal? And the part that, it's like even in evidence, if you're a police officer, if you have evidence that's like a gun and I pick up that gun, I can still use that gun. You know what I mean? But there's something in this place that makes it so that you can't use said gun. And that's the part where I'm kind of like, okay, then. Like, okay, I see you.
Right.
Well, I think Mobius said magic and powers and things that, like, even when Loki tried to pull out his knives, like, that didn't work. Like, I feel like
that was hilarious.
You're almost in, like, the dead zone. You're in purgatory. You're in a purgatory of where nothing but basically the time key, like the TVA's powers, if you will. That's the only thing that works in this world.
I got you. I got you. All right. Anything to add to that, Eddie?
Yeah, when he was in his interview with Mobius, and he's explaining to him like why, like, do you enjoy killing people? And then he shows him his life up to Thor: The Dark World when he sends the people to accidentally kill his mother. Like, that's a moment, dude. Like, that's because like that hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And he's explaining to Loki like everything that you do in the timeline that you were on is done so that these people can become the best version of themselves. And it shows the Avengers in that grand moment in the first Avengers. And that's a moment. Like, imagine someone telling you like this is your future, and you're supposed to suck, and you're like, what? Like, you're not supposed to be good. That's like that's the punch in the gut from Tyson for sure. Like, that would be painful. And so he's he's kind of in that stage of denial, like that can't be it. And then when he escapes and he finds Casey, I think is the guy's name, and he finds like the box of Infinity Stones. If you notice the sound when he gets the Tesseract, it has like that like kind of sound. And then when he sees the humming, and then when he sees the stones in the box, that humming kind of just goes away because it makes it feel like it's worthless. And in the box, all you really saw were time, power, soul, space, and reality. But you didn't see the Mind Stone. But if you watch the credits, I think it's sitting on.
It is,
I think it's being used as a paperweight. Yeah.
Yep.
But it is funny how like that place, it's a dead zone. Like nothing goes on there outside of what they control. Like you get on the powers, the Infinity Stones have no use whatsoever. But it's funny how there's so many though. Because
well,
the
MCU
MCU made it so that there was only one.
Well, I think they don't know about the TVA, and that even mentions that during the episode where it's like, well, you didn't need to know, And I think and the receptionist guy said that, oh, we get a lot of those. So it's really like
what?
Yeah, and that's, I'm sorry, Mike, I have to say this, we won't go down the path, but it's like, well, if you get a lot of those, then what was the Ancient One talking about with if you take one out? But all right, anyway, I won't go there, but we
won't dive in.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. Mike's like literally biting his lip.
He's like, I'm not about to do this.
Sorry, buddy. So sorry, Eddie, keep going.
No, it's cool. So all the stones. I'm just curious how there's so many there because it made it seem like the MCU like introducing there was only like one stone, like there's one of each stone done, but there's like multiple in the box.
Yeah.
And then he has that moment of like, is this like the most powerful entity in the universe? And then he escapes again, and she faces away that dude's box. The whole cart is just gone. I have no idea where it went, or even where that guy went when he got phased away. Like where?
By the way,
go?
I'm glad you mentioned that because that was a thought I had. Because especially when Miss Minutes talks about we put you back in your original spot, it looked like they just killed that guy.
Yeah.
They just. They disintegrated that man. Like he's no longer at Goldman Sachs. Like he's just dead.
He's just dust, essentially.
So
see ya.
I'm with you on that. That's the one thing where Miss Minutes like, we put you back where you're supposed to be. It's like you killed a guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not sure if you guys saw any of like the posters around the TVA, and there's some unique ones that like have like weird phrases. So one says, "Behave," that has her on it. Behave, or your clock will get cleaned, or you'll get your clock cleaned. There's like a zero tolerance one when they phase the guy away. There's one that has like a dude in a suit that's kind of like silhouetted and it says always watching, which is like creepy. Stable society, tidy timeline, and Nexus events must be pruned. So it's like they're very like focused on keeping everything in order. And when Loki asks like why haven't I known about you guys? You haven't had to because you were sticking to the plan.
Yeah.
But then you veered off the route, and now we gotta step in. Now, you're a variant, so we gotta fix you. All Nexus events must be pruned. It's just like they're so like strict, but you would have never known because no one did anything stupid yet. So
yeah, or at least that we were aware of at this point.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you were really tapping into what I think could end up being one of the cooler things in this show is another like Loki character evolution. He sees his mom. Which I don't think, and honestly, I don't know if you guys realized that before, but I never really realized that he was the one who sent them there to kill her, and that he somehow knew that.
I realized that for sure.
Did you? Okay,
Right.
I never connected those dots.
Yeah, in Dark World, he was trying to have that guy kill Thor.
Yeah,
and it went right to his mom's room.
Yeah,
like an idiot.
For whatever reason, I just didn't. I don't know. I obviously remember him saying, go to the stairs to the left or whatever. And I remember them killing the mom. But in my head, I guess I don't know. I just never connected it was Loki.
Not to talk about it because Dark World's like,
yeah.
whatever. But like there's a part in Dark World where Thor goes to see Loki after the fact. And Loki puts up like a visual like he's fine. And then the whole room is trash.
It's in shambles.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I clearly I didn't. Yeah, I must not have liked that movie enough to pay attention.
Honestly, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the best one.
Yeah. So but back to the Loki evolution. Like that's the part I think that I'm probably looking not the most for. I want to see the story and all that, but I'm pretty interested to see how that evolves. And I think it could be a very fun anti-hero type series where you get a lot of people really, really liking Loki even more. Like he's obviously kind of an anti-hero that, people like, but I think this show has the potential to kind of like blow him up more in like a positive way. So I don't know.
He was DB Cooper.
By the way, did you guys know who DB Cooper was before this? Mike.
Of course.
Oh heck yeah, dude!
I didn't.
Yeah.
You guys are smart,
Yeah,
man.
dude.
Like I was like, who the hell's DB Cooper?
DB Cooper's that story still to this day is one
Unsolved.
of the biggest unanswered questions in the world.
Yeah, I know, which is
Legendary.
insane. It's like what I love how they just threw that in there, and it's like, wait a minute, like hold on a second, and it's like that's not really solved. So what do you are you? Is this real? Are you telling me that you know?
I love the fact that was like a bet he lost with Thor.
Yes.
Right. Which, why do you need money? You're a god, bro. Like,
Here's the thing: when the trailers came out for the show, I thought it was going to be, and I still think it's going to be, very much like a Quantum Leap, like Marvel Quantum Leap, where he like goes through time as different people to try to like save timelines or whatever.
Mhm.
And the fact that that was just like an offshoot of like Thor made me do it was just very funny. But yeah, DB Cooper, man.
Yeah.
that was great.
That was great. That was good. Before I get into kind of start going to the big bads, the evolution from that, Loki seeing that, talking to Mobius, I really did. I think one of you guys mentioned this before, where it might have been before we started shooting, but just the idea of like Mobius really trying to get Loki to understand who Loki is.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked how Owen Wilson, who I originally was a little skeptical on, but I've definitely warmed very much so onto the character.
Fantastic.
Yeah, like I'm just like, yeah, I'm definitely ready for Wedding Crashers 2 now. But I the evolution of that story, seeing that those two kind of coming together, I'm interested to see that like potential good cop bad cop situation. Like it's another kind of almost like buddy show. We talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier, and there were two buddies. We got a similar situation here with maybe potentially two buddies. I would love to see Owen Wilson continue if he keeps this type of trajectory within the show going. But is there anything that you guys kind of saw in the show as we work towards that last scene, which I won't talk about now, but from that evolution before that last scene that you guys want to discuss?
Go ahead, Eddie.
Oh, pardon me. He goes back to the room after escaping for a little bit and playing around. Watches his life, or what it was supposed to be. And then, can you imagine watching your life in a film and it just ending? Just done. Being like, oh, that's it. Like I didn't really do anything special. It was over. He sees his moments with Thor that were like really like brotherhood moments, and then he sees his death by Thanos, and he's kind of like he was sad, and then like super pissed that he died by Thanos' hand.
Yeah.
And then it was weird because the way they framed him being choked and him walking up to watch that shot, it was almost like he was telling himself like you'll never be a god, and that was kind of interesting. Yeah,
it's a good catch.
It was what I thought kind of funny. I saw this online somewhere when the film strip ended. Like the little white strip had numbers on it. It said 616.
Yep.
Which is the Marvel comic book universe, but the MCU is Earth. I wrote down 199999. I think it's what 5 nines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Other than that, I mean, that was a moment, as I mentioned earlier, and I think as Thor pointed out as well. To see your life in a film strip and then to find out how you die and your only purpose in life was to make others better. That would, make others better by being the worst.
Some people spend their lives and get paid to make other people better. I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. I'm just saying. Anyway, Mike, what you got something to add there too?
Me and Eddie are always like pretty much on the same page.
So I'm the outlier.
You don't know.
I'm just kidding.
No. But I think also there was an interview with Loki where
Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah. Sorry, I blanked just then. Where he was talking about in Endgame before even the show, like on that clip, he was talking to himself the entire time. So he was talking about when he filmed that scene. That string of lines he says, like, I'm Loki, Odin's son, like, all these things, he's referencing himself the entire time. So even that part where he says, like, you'll never be a god, he's not talking to Thanos, he's talking to himself. Because he knows he's making like the final sacrifice, like he'll die. Like, so that's how he thought of it when he was filming Endgame. So when
Infinity
him
War?
watching it is like, what's that?
Infinity War?
Infinity War, sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Infinity
wait,
War.
what?
Infinity War.
Mhm.
Though he was watching himself say it, Eddie, like you're kind of right. He was talking to himself in that
Interesting.
sense, even when he was saying it.
Oh, that's cool.
Interesting. What?
So that's how he like, and that final dialogue he had is all talking to himself, because there's one part where he like looks at Thor,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like very like I'm like almost like exacerbating my demons and like you know just talking it out. So you're on point with that for sure.
Cool. Like it. Yeah, that's pretty deep. I mean, it's pretty cool to think that, you know, he did that as an actor, and then, you know, X number of years later, you know, that they have a cut scene or a scene where it's that's reflected. You know, whether they knew that or not, it's pretty cool to have that.
Oh god.
Yeah, Eddie's liking it. I can tell. It's
Yeah,
feeling it, right?
I'm writing that down for my future roles.
I was just gonna
I
say,
always
like,
think in terms of the future.
yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, you start convincing yourself in your head, what am I doing? What am I trying to portray? How do I say this to myself to feel these true emotions, you know? So, I like
good.
it. I
Thank
do.
you, Mike.
Yeah, I do like it. I like it a lot. All right. So, one of the things I want to ask you guys a little bit, who are the bad people? Now, I don't want to get too much WandaVision going on me, because Mike's going to freak out if we've got too much timeline breaking off and explaining it, and we've got who's the real big bad, and with a bunch of conspiracy theories, you know, I think Mike's going to explode. But I'm going to put out there the Tom Hiddleston Loki that we're seeing right now. Like, that's a potential for sure, which I don't think it is, but just whatever. The variant Loki, which we'll get into gender. We've talked about that a little bit. The TVA in itself, which, you know, is that a bad entity? Or the timekeepers. You know, that's a thing that I've been seeing a lot out there where, you know, you've got this almost this juxtaposition. And honestly, I don't want to deep dive into this too much. But, you know, of society and government today, you know, where you've got these different things of, you know, I had a conversation, you know, I don't know, Mike, you remember Gavin, right?
Yes.
And Eddie, I don't know if you know, from football, like he and I have been talking a lot about like, I forget the name of it, but decentralized finance, DeFi, and just the idea of what's happening with all this, and, you know, the concept of, well, you know, these agencies who tell us this is the way it needs to be, and, you know, you must do this, and then you've got these Reddit traders like going against that, and everybody wondering like what's going to happen to the centralized finance, blah 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 blah. Right. So then we've got the show with about the timekeepers and potentially the TVA. And me personally, watching this other real world situation happen and thinking about it and having conversations like what I just mentioned with Gavin, it's like, I wonder if the timekeepers or TVA are going to be similar here, where eventually people might realize, like, who are you? Like, what are you really telling me? Like, what is this about? So anyway, that's, again, I don't want to deep dive too much into that. That's me being a little loopy and just kind of having a little bit of, you know, whatever. But we're
Absolutely fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Mike, I like Mike's face. He's got some brows going on here, and I want to hear what he's got to say.
No, I don't actually disagree with you, Thor. I think, because also out of all the trailers we've seen, everything we've seen, and I think it's very smart the way Disney does any of its trailers, because they don't show anything, but then you like look back at it and they kind of show you everything.
Right.
And the things that they've been showing is a lot of Loki fighting. And if you look at some of the trailers, there's ones of Loki where he looks kind of like prisoner Loki, and then ones where he's like old school Loki with horns and a suit and all that. So I think it came out and said that basically Mobius has asked him to chase himself. And I think that's what it is. But I think the person he's chasing is trying to upend the timekeepers, the people who control everything. You know, I think you could conceptually say like there's no free will in anything. So it could be himself trying to basically, you know, make it to where all these decisions that weren't made by the timekeepers. It's like everyone's choice of how they end up living their life. So I'm kind of with you. I think there's a chance that the timekeepers are kind of the bad people, but also simplistically, these TV shows, there's always been like who they say is the bad guy is pretty much the bad guy. And they haven't really strayed from that. WandaVision, it was Wanda. Captain America was the Flag Smashers. This one, they've said it's Loki. So I think he's chasing after himself. Where they go with that, again, I think there's a big correlation to Doctor Strange. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm with you, Thor, in the fact that I think you can kind of deep dive a little bit more with this show than any of the other ones. And I think from the trailers you've seen, there's a lot of fighting in the TVA world, not in like different planets or anything like that. So I think it really is. I don't even think it's going to be like a woman Loki or she, whatever you want to call it. I think it's just going to be Loki in a different form,
Okay. What about you, Eddie?
I'm on the same page with Mike a little bit. Trying to think of what you said specifically that kind of made me think about that. If we're ranking in terms of who's the bad, I'd probably go like I'm gonna say Loki first. Whatever this other variant Loki is, I'll go TVA and then timekeepers. I think in that order, because the timekeepers feel like they're doing nothing wrong. I mean, this is what we have. This is it. You've straight up the path. We're gonna find you, bring you back. TVA. I don't know. There's something shady about them. I don't know. There's something weird about them, because even their demeanor within their own office, I think you mentioned, Mike, is off. Because like when she brings in Loki and the guy's like, "Here's your paperwork," and she like ignores him. She ignores Casey, and he's like, "Oh, okay, sorry." And then he gives him the cube. What's the cube? But even the way she looks at him when she gets teleported back with the necklace on, and he's talking about how Loki had him, and she blasts away his cart, and she gives him a look as if to say like he's beneath her when they're all in the same organization together. So I feel like there's some disconnect within the TVA. But yeah, I don't know. There's a woman who is playing a character in this movie, in this series, who is like a Lady Loki. I'm curious who she is. We haven't been introduced. I'm assuming she was the one at the end of the episode who drops the lantern and murders like 3 or 4 of the agents and then steals another charge. But yeah, I gotta see more. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's all speculation. It's all speculation at this point. Right. So, and people are also speculating about Kang. If he shows up. Eddie, you mentioned earlier Ravonna Renslayer, who's the judge, who in the comics at least had a relationship with Kang. We know that Kang's going to show up in the Ant-Man Quantumania movie. Me personally, I actually don't necessarily expect him to show up in this show. There might be a slight reference at some point, but I'm not going to personally expect much more than that. I mean, that's just, right. I think it's kind of like what Mike said is these TV shows have really been kind of like what they've said they're going to be, and it's like, this has been the bad person. It's like, stop looking in so much to the TV shows. They're just going to be what they're going to be. You know what I mean? It
just bridges to the films, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And while this one might bridge the film a little bit more than the other two, the other two I'd argue were more character development. I think this one is still not going to necessarily have Kang involved. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or comments on that, but...
I mean, this can also still be character development for Loki.
True. Very true. And I do think it will be. I think it'll be slightly different than what we've seen. And like I mentioned earlier, I think it's going to be, make people like Loki even more than that Mike didn't. He's going to be a very popular anti-hero, more so than what he had been before. That's my opinion.
Right. I agree with that.
So, let's see what else. We already mentioned the writer. I want to throw a little bit more on this. This Michael Waldron. He's a writer for Rick and Morty, which, for anybody who hasn't seen, is there's a
hilarious show.
Yeah, and regardless of what the foundation of the intelligence in that show is meant to be very, very high. And you'll get people who think that's the stupidest show in the world. It's dumb, but the true fans of it are really like, you just don't, the intelligence it takes to comprehend.
Those people are dumb.
Exactly. That's the argument. That's the argument a lot of people have. So, but that same guy, he's a writer on this show. He's a writer involved in some Disney Star Wars stuff. And he's also involved in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And when we were off air, one of you guys mentioned that in a recent interview, they asked him, well, is it connected? And he said, well, I guess you're just gonna have to watch and find out. But Feige also mentioned, I think it was Feige who said this is going to be the most tied to the movie. So I could see that happen. I know we talked about that a little bit, but I just wanted to mention in the video. I don't know if either of you guys have anything to add to that. If you do, I also am curious of, and this is kind of working towards wrapping up. What are you guys looking forward to coming into the show? So Michael Waldron, thoughts, and what are you really looking forward to or going to look forward to speculating about further as this show goes on? Well, Eddie, we'll go to you first.
I'll bet. Okay. I'm excited to see what happens at the end, because after he dips from 2012, you're like, all right, so does he go back? Is he gonna go back? Like, I just want to know what happens there, because technically he's still a variant, like, until he fixes said problem and then goes back. And then if he does go back, does he accept his fate, or does he try and change things like that? And that I'm curious about, and I want to see how it ties into Doctor Strange. I'm sure it will. I mean, it has to be. It's 5 more episodes, and they're saying that this is the series to do it. So I want to see how that works out. I would like to hear about Kang just a little bit. I think that there's folks that are saying that, like, the 3 heads behind the judge, the middle one is Kang, which is why she's sitting in front of it. So there's like a tie in there, which I thought was pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm curious what will happen after all is said and done with all his little exploits with Mobius.
What about you, Mike? Where you at?
Yeah, I want to see. I think Mobius. I think Owen Wilson's character. If they stick to their banter, if Owen Wilson is like that dry, witty humor, I think he's going to be entertaining the entire time. I think he's going to be integral to the whole plot of the show, because Eddie, kind of like you said, the TVA sticks to a script. And Mobius, by bringing in Loki, seems to be going off script, which a lot of people are questioning. So maybe he's kind of like a, smart detective, like figuring stuff like that. There's maybe something shady going on. We can like deep dive, but whatever. But I like his character. He's good so far. I think him and Loki have a great repertoire, whatever you want to call it. I don't know the word. Yeah, rapport. And then in regards to the writer, I mean, if you've watched Rick and Morty, half that show's concept is them going through time and messing stuff up and then fixing it. Like, he's got the timelines of time figured out with that show.
Right.
But no, but also, like, his writing is very smart, especially when it comes to dialogue and references. It's very witty humor that, again, you may not catch, but if you like really listen to like the banter of those shows, it's genius. Right. And yeah, I'm with Eddie, where I just want to see where things go. I'm the guy who I just need answers now. I want to know everything. But I just want to know everything. Yeah. So see where it goes, see where it takes, see any twists and turns. Again, we might have a simple show of, it's about Loki and his progression and what he's doing, and if it has cool ties to the next movie, awesome.
Dope.
But I just, it needs to be Wednesday already, or whatever, Thursday, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what are we shooting? Today's Monday, right? So
yeah,
it's Monday. Tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Thor, how about you? What's your vibes?
Yeah, I mean, as you could probably tell, I'm definitely getting carried away thinking about timeline stuff, and I don't want to, because you quickly get, just in this circular loop, or things unravel so quickly. But at the same time, like, and I think we talked about this in our text chain a little bit, like, after I watched Tenet,
God.
It's,
honestly, I need to have a one-on-one conversation with Christopher Nolan to just explain to me that movie.
Yeah,
I watched it. I just watched it on a plane on the way to New York. I had to still Google everything there.
Dude, there are articles out there that say the actors had no idea what was happening in the script. So you're not alone, bro. You're not alone.
Yeah, one of the articles, I think, it might have been Eddie who linked it in our chat. It explains it decently. But that movie aside, it's just like, it's very complex. All right, just putting it lightly. It's very complex. So, I'm interested to see and have that discussion with this show. I don't think it's going to be necessarily as complex, but I could see with the potential of it. So I'm excited just to see that play out. I mentioned the scene of an additional Loki evolution, seeing what happens with this particular Loki variant. Does he just keep, does he stay with the TVA the whole time, and try to fix these things? Does he eventually become the Loki he's chasing? And it's this weird circular loop. Does he actually do something to further mess up the multiverse that makes the Doctor Strange movie and Wanda and all these different things like, think about this for a second, what if this show and Loki does something that actually screws up the multiverse so bad that's where the Doctor Strange movie comes in. That's where Wanda starts actually trying to find her kids. Maybe at the cutscene of WandaVision, we heard her kids. That was after Loki already did some stuff and he screwed up the multiverse. And so they're now, just all this crazy crap. What I mean?
Your mind.
I'm just telling you guys. I'm just telling you guys.
It's diving right now.
Yeah, it's that's the type of stuff
it's a
that
nuclear bomb.
Yes.
Of how crazy things can go.
Yes, very much so. So if I am able, and I'm not promising that I'm going to be, but if I'm able to put that aside for the most part, it's about Loki, just watching the story, seeing it develop a little bit, and honestly just seeing how it ties into the movies. Just being excited to see it. I'm not expecting some crazy cameo or anything like that. I'm just really looking forward to, it's good acting, it's good writing, the cinematography's solid, just enjoying a TV show. That's kind of where I land on it. So yeah, you guys, anything else we didn't cover that you guys want to hit? Obviously, episode in a couple days. We'll cover that when we all can get together. But what didn't we hit? Anything?
I just love how Mobius, he calls Loki out on his stuff. I think that's great. I love when Loki's talking. He's like, big metaphor guy. I like that. It makes you sound super smart. He goes, I am smart. And he goes, I know. Like you're just like, what? He's almost like Morpheus.
Yeah.
It's like wild. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't mention this. We were talking about it, but a psychology trick for people who are actually legitimately disturbed or having if I come to you guys and I start thinking, or if I go to a psychiatrist and say, I'm Jesus. Jesus. Praise me. One of the things that psychiatrists actually do will say, yes, Jesus, thank you for coming. They actually embrace the fact that you say, and they try. So Jesus,
reverse psychology.
Yeah, and they're like, so what are you doing? What are you here to do, Jesus? What exactly? And so tying that to this show, Mobius is going, okay, so what was your plan? Oh, okay. Oh, Midgard, I'm gonna be the king of. And then what? Are you gonna be the king of space? Yeah, I'm gonna. And he's right. And then what were you gonna do? And he's just, you could tell. And then Loki's like, wait, hold on a second. What are you doing? I haven't thought. And you start to, and so the brain actually starts to come back to normal, and think about that. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. It's kind of. Yeah. Yeah, good times. All right, so that's what we got. Appreciate you guys making this far. If you did, episode 1 in, we made it about an hour, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know plenty of you guys were asking about it, so again, we'll do episodes for this, and we might get together. I think we might do Black Widow. I don't know. We gotta chat about that.
Oh
maybe.
My God, why not?
I got nothing better to do.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Why not?
If we can all go to the theater together, AMC shout out, and then I don't know if we can find a way to do something with my camera and have you guys here. Maybe zoom it out or something, and we'll do it all in the same room. That'd be fun. Anyway, so appreciate everybody stopping by. Like I mentioned in the intro, check out the Discord link in the description below. You can follow along on any content. We're pushing towards the 10,000 subscriber mark. We're gonna get a giveaway. All you got to do is comment below to actually enroll in that giveaway. Hammer down the like button, click the notification bell. I mentioned subscribe. Until next time, hope you guys all have a wonderful day. See ya.
Bye.
Later.